Hey AP Literature, I'm going to do a quick video just trying to recap some things and give you some more clarification on No Country for Old Men and the essay that you're going to do. I'm really excited to read the essays. I think they're going to be awesome. You've shown so much progress just in the past few weeks, and so I think this is definitely going to be the best one yet. So I hope you're psyched up, hope you're ready for the team competition. I want to start by talking about the prompt, okay? We talked about it a little bit today. I'm going to read you the prompt. It says, the most important themes in literature are sometimes developed in scenes in which a death or deaths take place. Choose a novel or play and write a well-organized essay in which you show how a specific death scene helps to illuminate the meaning of the work as a whole. So we know that we're talking about one specific death scene and how that's going to tie in to the meaning of the work as a whole. You can talk about other scenes in the book. So, for example, if I'm doing No Country for Old Men and I'm doing the scene with Carla Jean, I can talk about how that scene parallels the beginning scene. I can involve other things, but the main thing I'm focused on is that one particular death scene and then how it illuminates and how it shows us what the meaning of the work as a whole is. So before you can do anything, you need to choose, number one, your scene. And number two, you need to decide what your meaning of the work as a whole is. Your meaning of the work as a whole cannot be something very, very simplistic. It doesn't need to be a paragraph either. It needs to be a statement, one particular statement that you think the book is really making, okay? So I wrote a good introduction and thesis for this prompt. I answered the prompt. I used Frankenstein as my book. I didn't want to do No Country for Old Men because I knew that might take away from some of your ideas. So I used Frankenstein for a good one and a bad one. And I'm actually going to read you the good one. I'm going to explain what I did really well, what I want to see in yours. The good introduction and thesis statement. In Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the conflicted and oft-maligned protagonist, Victor Frankenstein, chooses to elevate himself and take on a godlike persona by attempting to create life. Although the creature enters the world innocently, the prejudice and vicious mistreatment from society ostracizes the creature and forces him into a life of isolation and seclusion. The creature bitterly desires a companion to share his life with. However, Victor cannot bring himself to create another being. In a dramatic confrontation, Victor refuses to create a companion for the creature and therefore sentences him to a life of bitter pain and loneliness. Through the abortion and subsequent death of the female companion, Victor slays the last hope the creature has for companionship. As his desire for companionship is thwarted, the creature transforms into a demon and becomes a terror to society, thereby showing that true evil does not innately reside within the creator or the creation, but within societal prejudice and isolation. Now, I know that's a little bit wordy, but pull it up and look at it. Here's the things that I did really well in that introduction. First of all, I answered the prompt. I answered it. Right there in that introduction, I answered it. I answered it and I did not restate it. I did not use words and phrases such as meaning of the work as a whole. Meaning of the work as a whole, that phrase is never used here. Some of you try to use that phrase in your essay and you think that by using that phrase, you've answered it. You've just restated it. I don't want you to restate it. I don't want that phrase anywhere in there. I want you to answer what the meaning of the work as a whole is, but I don't want you to put that phrase in there. You can answer it without putting the phrase in. I didn't use death scene. I didn't use themes. I didn't use those words. I didn't restate it. I answered it. If you force yourself not to restate the prompt, then you have no choice but to answer it. So that's why I don't want to see those words necessarily in your introduction. One of the things I put, here's my MOWA. I want to show you my MOWA and my death scene. My death scene is clearly the destruction of the female companion. When Victor aborts that creation and he decides to no longer continue it and he murders her, that is my death scene that I'm using. My MOWA, my meaning of the work as a whole, is that true evil does not innately reside within the creator or the creation, but within societal prejudice and isolation. Notice I did not use a cliche with that. I did not use, a huge big paragraph. I did not use something very, very simple. It's a complex idea, but it's stated in one sentence. So My thesis statement is long. I use a semicolon. I like using semicolons for thesis statements because it allows me to expand. It allows me to say a lot. I like to say what I need to say in my thesis statement. And let's review real quick. If you use semicolons, that's fine, but do not abuse semicolons. Okay. Remember, I can't believe I'm going to do this on a video, but remember that. That's what you do when you put a semicolon in there, okay? Move my glasses all the way down. So be careful with using the semicolons. You really shouldn't use probably, if you're doing a 3-page paper, you shouldn't be using probably over 6 of them. You need to be careful with those. One of the other things I want to show you about my introduction is the scholarly language that I use. I say godlike persona. I use the word ostracize. I use the phrase vicious mistreatment, prejudice. In the beginning, I put the conflicted and oft maligned protagonist. So one of the things we've talked about is your voice. I do not usually talk like this, but the way that I write has to be different from the way that I talk, and I have to write in a very scholarly way. So that's one of the things that I want you to play around with is this scholarly voice. I know that it's probably a little bit different for you. It's foreign for you, but the more you play around with it and the more you use it, the more comfortable you're going to become with it, okay? Now, this is what I don't want to see with your introduction. This is what I don't want to see. This is a bad introduction, a bad thesis statement. In Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, there are many important death scenes that we could discuss. First of all, you should never use we or I in your essay. In Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, there are many important death scenes that we could discuss. Although the demon is extremely frightening and cruelly murders many different people, there's one scene that really illustrated the meaning of the work as a whole. When Victor killed the female demon, the themes of loneliness, prejudice, and the dangers of playing God were exposed. That's an awful introduction. It's an awful thesis statement. First of all, it's written in past tense. You have to write in present tense when you're writing about literature. It's very simplistic. There's not really any scholarly language in it. The sentence structure is extremely simplistic. I restated the prompt with death scenes, meaning of the work as a whole. I did include the death scene. I did include the meaning of the work as a whole, but I didn't really nail the meaning of the work as a whole. I just talked about themes, and I did this 3-point thesis. I think some of you have been taught you have to do a 3-point thesis, and we do not want to see a 3-point thesis. If you do a 3-point thesis, then what you're telling me is you're only going to write 5 paragraphs. You can't write 3 pages and have 5 paragraphs. You're going to have more than 5 paragraphs. So the 3-point thesis is not going to work in these kind of essays. These are the things that you absolutely want to steer clear of when you do this particular essay. So I want you to look at those examples. I've posted them, read through them, play around with your own introduction. You need to do your introduction tonight. You need to post your thesis statement for me to see. I want to recap real quick the end of the book and textual support. Those are the other 2 things that I want to do. The end of the book, it has confused a lot of people. And I'm going to just summarize and briefly tell you there's 2 dreams at the end. Sheriff Bell clearly says that he had 2 dreams. The first dream, his father gives him $5 and he loses it. Okay, that is extremely symbolic of the fact that his father has really paved the way. His father has passed something of value down to him. He's passed something down of value, and Sheriff Bell has lost what he has passed down. He has not lived up to the legacy and followed in his father's footsteps. We see that more pronounced in the second dream when he says that he's riding with his father. It's dark, it's late. His father has this horn of fire, and it's illuminating the path, and his father rides on ahead of him, and he says, I know that when I get there, my father will he'll be there waiting for me. But then the book ends with, and then I woke up. He never reached his father. He never made it there. So that ties back into the title of the book, No Country for Old Men. Sheriff Bell retires. He doesn't defeat Sugar. He doesn't defeat this new type of evil. He feels like he can't. And so this is a no country for old men, and he does not live up, he feels like, to his father's legacy, really. So I wanted to just sort of explain that, because I feel like if you don't understand the dreams, if you don't understand the end of the book, You're not going to understand the overall meaning of the book, which means you won't understand the meaning of the work as a whole. Last thing that I want to talk about is tone, okay? And this is important because you may be discussing tone somewhere in your essay. And at some point, no matter what you discuss, you're going to have to use textual support. So some of you were telling me on your tone, I'm going to use Miranda's here. Some of you were telling me on your tone handout what the tone was, but you never showed me where, okay? So if you tell me that the tone is ominous, okay, you have to show me where it's ominous. When you write your essay, if you try to prove a point, if you're going to include something in your essay, you have to use textual support. You have to use the text to back up what you're saying. So Miranda does this really well right here. She says that when she went up the stairs and turned the light on in her bedroom, Sugar was sitting at the little desk waiting for her. She stood at the doorway, her hand falling slowly away from the wall switch. He moved not at all. She stood there holding her hat. Finally, she said, "I know this wasn't done with." Smart girl. I ain't got it. Hello. I don't think so. Can I call you right back? Okay. Sorry, Mr. Starr had a question. And I'm not stopping because I'm at 11 minutes and I'm not quitting. I'm going to power through. So anyway, smart girl. I ain't got it. Got what? I need to sit down. So she's saying that right here, as she's going up the stairs and all of that, she's color-coded it, that in particular is ominous. And that's very true. I mean, there's other words you could use, but that one definitely expresses the theme, or the tone, I mean. I want to read this part right here. I'm not going to say the word. You know what the word is, but I want to read the part from page 175. Do you have any notion of how GD crazy you are? The nature of this conversation? The nature of you? Sugar leaned back. He studied Wells. Okay. Do you have any notion of how GD crazy you are? That right there signals tone. And if I look at these words, I mean, I know obviously it's going to go into the negative category. We know that's going to go there. So if I look at the negative, here's some words that we could probably use. Outraged. I think that word's close, but it's really, it's close, but it's not what we need. Condemnatory. He is condemning him. That's close. He's not threatening. Contentious. That's a word we could use. Haughty. He is in this moment. There's multiple words that you could use there. Like I just, called off 4 that would work. For that one particular line, the tone shifts when it comes down here. And Sugar says, he says, "I'm here and you are there. In a few minutes, I will still be here." So the tone shifts. I mean, it shifts in a different place even, but right down there, that is very different from when Wells is talking up here and is using such strong language. And asked him, does he have any idea how crazy he is? So you could even, use desperate, frantic. I think all of those words sort of sum up Wells and he's sort of talking and he knows that he's going to die. And so he really has nothing left. But I think there is a part of him that's sort of frantic in a sense at that point. So there's multiple words that you can use. It's not just one tone word, but you want to find the word that matches up the closest to it. And you want to use textual support. So if I'll say that he's frustrated. Let's say that I'm going to use the word frustrated. That's the tone that I'm going to say is in this particular line, this particular part of the passage. Then I would need to use that line. Do you have